fun. Let's transition to 5 training camp questions involving the state of hockey's Minnesota Wild. Okay. I'm going to give you the first one, and the floor is yours. We are finally going to get a chance. Yes, the day is almost here. Training camp opens for the Wild because they went to the bubble in early January to see Kirill Kaprizov. All right. The speculation is done. He's here. He's here in the flesh. What, Declan Goff, in your opinion, should be the expectations for him now that we can see him play and now that he is really going to be on the team, as opposed to saying, wow, when he gets here, it's going to be great? What do you expect from him in 2020-21 or 2021?
I think my initial reaction is the expectations aren't going to be fair. I think he's going to have a lot of hype around him, and rightfully so. He was arguably the best player in the KHL the last 3 years, which is the best hockey league that's not called the NHL. I think this is a kid who's going to be expected to score goals. I think he's going to be expected to be a good skater, and I expect him to put up points. Now, is it fair to put a 23-year-old who hasn't spent a minute in North American hockey playing over here and expect him to be someone who's the same sniper he was in Russia? Probably not, but we've heard about him. We've heard about how highly touted he is. And I'm not going to throw him under the wind if in the first 8 games he only has a goal and then he gets bag skated and he's getting buried because he isn't doing his job. I'm not going to bury him there.
He ain't going to bag skate him. I got bad news for you.
But at the same time,
him on the back.
He's gonna have not a target on his back. 'Cause I don't want to say that, but he's gonna be circled. He's gonna be circled as this guy is supposed to be the biggest savior of the franchise since Argui Gabrick. And I know Parise and Suter were great, but those were free agents who already were established. We knew who the hell they were. This is your biggest prospect. I think it's a bigger prospect than it was Mikhail Granlund. I think it's a bigger prospect than what Brett Burns was supposed to be. This is going to be. The expectations are going to be very, very high. And is it going to, like I said, is it going to be fair that we're going to be possibly chastising him after the first week or 2 of the season? Probably not, but he's earned that. We have to see him perform. The Wild need him to be successful.
It won't be fair to judge him after 2 weeks. And I think I believe I've been on the bandwagon of saying we can't have too much pressure. But I wrote this question last night, Declan Goff, and then I sort of started to do some digging and research into if I was right about trying to dial back the pressure. And I'm with you. Okay. So 2 weeks in, if he's not playing well, we just calm down. All right. But as far as the expectations go, all right, I'm going to paint a picture of who he is right now. He is 23, 5'11", 200 pounds. So he's a solid guy. Like, he's not a kid. He's not 19. He's a solid kid or guy. He is, to your point, played in the KHL for I think the better part of like 6 years now. So he's been there for quite some time.
Right.
He played for the CSKA Moscow team last year, and for the second straight year led the KHL, which to your point is the second best hockey league in the world, with 33 goals, and I believe he has 63 goals in the last 2 years. 29 assists, 62 points last year in 57 games. I think it's incredibly fair for the season, not immediately, because it might take some time for a lot of guys to adjust to how we're going to do things this season. But I think it's incredibly fair for the season to have really high expectations and to put pressure on him based on where he played and age. Like, if this, if he had come here, Dex, at 19 or 20, I would say, come on, calm down. He is still growing. He's a kid, but he's 23. He's not a kid.
Right.
So the more I looked at this, I do think it's fair that our expectations immediately should be a top line type of wing who can score goals. Not saying he's not going to slump. So I don't want this to appear that I think that he should score like 56 goals in 56 games. Okay. I'm not saying that, but the more I examined it, I think that the expectations need to be high. And I think that's fair because he's not young for a player. I mean, 23 is not right. A kid. He's not young. And he is a guy who has developed himself in a really good league, playing against men, so not playing juniors. There is no reason for us not to think that by the time the Wild's 2021 season concludes, that this kid has had a really impressive year And like, if it takes too much time, that's not a sign that it's going to fall apart, but that is definitely a bad thing considering the buildup that he, or the, I should say the runway, that's probably the better word, that he has given himself to jump into this league, and really should hit the ground going pretty quickly.
If I can put my hockey scout hat on here, just for a second, I think what we know, the guy has a shot, and we know the guy can score goals. I think he's a confident kid. I think the confidence is there. But I think what is so difficult for when people make this big jump from international play and into the NHL is, can the kid skate? Can he skate well? Can he transition well? Can he, if he doesn't find the goals, is that going to force him to be pressing a little bit more? Basically, I think we'll be able to see it. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that if they do allow media into the XL Energy Center, we're able to actually see him in person. Because if the kid can skate well, I think he's got a very bright future. Because how many guys in Russia come over here with the howitzer shot but can't skate, or don't care, or don't want to transition and want to be lackadaisical? I think he can skate. I'm not trying to make the assumption he can't, but I do think his skating is going, and that's why I'm putting my scout hat on, is going to be what tells us if this kid is for real or not. Can he skate?
So I think it's fair too that it's going to take a little bit of time for him to adapt, but I think that adapting process should be fairly quick. And the one thing that we shouldn't have to go through with him, because again, of his experience in Russia and his age, is a learning experience, right? Like, he's going to have to learn some things, but like, this should not be, well, he's a kid, so we can't do this, right? So I just think that it is fair to apply pressure from day one. As far as, you stayed there, you played, that's fine, that's great, but that should benefit the Wild.
Right.
So like, the Wild shouldn't be sitting there with kid gloves on saying, oh, come on, you people expected too much. This guy, and I would say that it's fair probably to characterize Kaprizov as having the most pressure and expectations of immediate impact upon arrival for a guy who hasn't played in this league.
I would say it's right up there with Buxton and Sano, like in terms of the process. And some fans are probably not going to want to hear that, because Buxton and Sano have been so up and down a little bit. But in terms of prospects that have come to Minnesota, or that we've been waiting to see, I think he's right up there. I really think it's right up there. And obviously baseball is a little different, but I think if this kid is for real, this is going to be a saving grace for the franchise. Like, Buxton and Sano were supposed to be that, and it doesn't look like they're going to be the saving grace of the franchise. They're going to be key pieces that help the Twins get to a World Series, maybe still someday. But I think we've kind of maybe wrote off the opportunity that these guys are the saving grace. They're going to save the Twins, because that's what we heard from 2012 to 2014. They're going to be the saving grace, and it turns out, maybe not saving grace, but still key parts of a championship team. And I think with Kaprizov, I should say, the expectations are legit. And I think hockey is a sport where he can step in and make that immediate impact. And I'm curious what happens. I'm really
and he should be a star, right? He should be a star player. And I mean, this team has been starved for that. Buxton, Sano, Cat. As far as that expectation. But the more I thought about the time that he spent in the KHL playing there, the more I thought, if we all say, let's dial it down, that's probably not good.
Hey, right. Quickly before I transition, do you put him on the same line as Kevin Fiala, or do you spread the wealth out to start? What would you do?
I spread the wealth out to start with. I spread the wealth out to start with. Eventually I might, but I think I probably put Kaprizov on the second line to start with, and Fiala on the first line. But here's the problem. And
I know.
You're going to come back. You just came back to the biggest problem. I don't even have a first line center for Fiala. So what the hell am I going to do? Like, who's the distributor? Like, that's the problem. Is I think I've got two really good wings. Then if I go Fiala, Kaprizov, I think my top two wings decks are really good.
Right.
Who's getting them the puck?
I know.
Marco Rossi, he's 12. Johan. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it's a big question.
Oh, question two. Well, I mean, it's the biggest problem they've got, and I don't know. There's no answer. Like, they don't have the guy.
I know.
Okay, when we're talking about who is not going to start training camp practices, Alex Stalock and Zuccarello are both out. Obviously, Matt's had surgery on his right arm to alleviate what is, I guess, a torn ligament suffered last season. Stalock is out indefinitely. This one's a little bit more interesting because of an upper body injury. Does either concern you as we start camp? And I would project here that Zuccarello and Stalock both will not be prepared when the season opens on January 14th.
Here's what's so funny. I'm actually more concerned and I'm more upset that Zuccarello got hurt than Stalock. I think Stalock's injury, it sounds like it was an off the ice. The way I'm reading between these tea leaves here, it seems like it's something that happened after the play-in tournament, like where Zuccarello had an arm injury.
And don't forget that when it comes to things that we don't know, that can involve COVID too, Declan, because like they don't need to tell us that, and they
exactly
won't.
And I'm not trying to speculate what happened, and I'm completely guessing what happened with Alex Stalock, and
you don't know.
But to answer your question, Zuccarello's injury bugs me, I guess, a little bit more because number one, when did he get this surgery? Did he not get it till recently? Like, did he get it right? Did he get it right after the play-in tournament, and then like just it was intensive rehab, and it's going to take him a while to get going? That's where this one kind of like irritates me because it's like, well, wait a minute, like he had an arm surgery. Okay, when did he have the surgery? And also after the year you had, did you delay the surgery because you wanted rehab? You didn't know what was going on. Like if I was Matt Zuccarello and I had this frustrating season, probably my worst season as a pro, and then did you just wait to get this? Like you already faced an uphill battle going into your second year, and now he's going to be completely rusty in year two. This does not spell well for Matt Zuccarello because I tried to defend him last year. I tried to hold on to him a little bit, and now, I mean, I'm running out of carrots here.
Currently easily one of the top three probably worst sports contracts in Minnesota to a professional athlete is Matt's contract, right? I mean, that contract is Paul Fenton's basically middle finger swan song to this franchise and being stuck. Did he get hurt in the play-in tournament and tried to rehab it and it didn't work? And so he had surgery. Did a doctor diagnose it one way after that tournament? And did another doctor come back? I mean, there's a lot of weird questions. And I guess I'd be more upset if he had contributed something. Now, here's my question. Here, he was such a dud. My question is this: could you, to start the season, place him on LTIR, which is the long-term injury reserve list, which allows you, if you're allowed to do that, to free up salary cap space?
Right.
Because that's what I would try and do. They're going to give him another chance, and I get that, but his play last year to me was so uninspired, and he got the fifth year on that contract. So I'm curious to see what they do when it comes to him as far as contractually to start the year, because if you did bounce his contract short term off of your cap, that would give you the ability to possibly make a move, which Guerin basically said on his on a Zoom call he's not going to do. But I mean, he's not going to tell you. He's not going to say, you know what, I am planning to put Zuccarello on LTIR, and I've got all of these plans. Let me tell you about him here. I'm going to pull out this note page from my desk drawer. So we don't know that.
I think in a normal year, you long-term injury reserve them and you can bring in a free agent. I think with the way things are going right now, I don't think that's possible. You know, there's been fans that think you bring back Mikhail Granlund. I am so anti that move.
He's not not bringing Granlund back.
And yeah, he knows that, and everyone should know that. And then what happens? So then if Zuccarello comes back, then you're still logjam. Like, I don't want that problem. Like, some people think that's a good problem to have. No, I don't want that problem at all. I don't want two guys who are 28 and Zuccarello's case in his 30s then bogging down more roster spots. So no, I don't think that's a good idea. And in general, I think this does open the door for someone else younger to make a push.
Yeah, and his contract is just going to be it's just a death knell. And
I know Thomas Vanek was a humongous disappointment, and we can put him on the Mount Rushmore of free agent disappointments. But I'll tell you this: the contract was not the issue with Thomas Vanek. It was an effort and distribution issue for Thomas Vanek. It wasn't the contract.
Well, he couldn't move anymore either. Yeah. Like, he got here and he was Okay, Stalock is an interesting case because, as we said before, we don't know exactly what's wrong. I wish him the best, and I hope he's fine. So I will start there, okay? Because he seems like a really nice guy, and he is a quality backup goaltender in this league. I get all that. However, his injury itself and being out, to me, does open up a great door of opportunity to Kaapo Kähkönen, right? Because this gives you an opportunity now to go into the season. Cam Talbot is your clear-cut one.
Yep.
And now it was going to be a competition, if that, but probably not, between Kaapo and Stalock. And my guess is if Stalock didn't get hurt or didn't get sick, I don't know what, my guess is that he was going to probably be the backup. And now we don't know when the American Hockey League was going to start, Dex. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where Kaapo was going to play beyond practicing, which I don't like. Like, I want Kaapo to play.
Right.
If Stalock's out to start the year, which it almost certainly looks like he's going to be, now this opens up the door for Kaapo to back up Talbot, and Kaapo's going to have to play. Like, you can't, it's not like, hey, we got 3 games in 3 nights. Cam, are you set? So I do think that from a roster construction standpoint of being able to take a good, long, hard look at players, this actually works out in the sense that you have to make a decision here at some point in time. Can Kaapo play here? Is he potentially long-term a top goalie, which he might be? This opens up the door to starting to go down that path.
Yeah, and I'm excited that Kaapo gets a look. And I know they brought back the Hamburglar too, and he's might be on the taxi squad or might get an extended look in training camp. But it's now Kaapo. It's now Kaapo that gets the chance to be the backup. And honestly, if the AHL season, I haven't looked into the logistics of that. And to be honest, my head's been spinning with the NHL one. I'm not going to go down the AHL path.
You're not yet.
So if Kaapo can't be the number 1 guy in the AHL, then it's only going to be beneficial for him to be the backup and play every third night for the Wild. And that's a good thing to have. And yeah, which obviously was Stalock the best. I'm tooting my own horn here. I did have to write that down in October that neither Dubnyk or Stalock would be your opening night goaltending tandem at the beginning of the next NHL season. I certainly did not expect Dubnyk to get traded that quickly, and I certainly did not expect Alex Stalock to go through whatever ailment he's going through.
Well, Garrett does not mess around, Declan Goff.
So it's an accidental opposite field home run for me if this indeed happens. Again, just tooting my own horn because I love to talk about myself. But Kaapo getting a look is going to be a good thing for the Wild.
Question 3. Do you see a chance that top pick Marco Rossi, who has been playing in Zurich in the Swiss League and now is actually going to go play for Austria in the upcoming World Juniors, which start on Christmas Day and which, by the way, are fantastic to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see a chance that Marco Rossi makes the opening night roster? Because, again, going back to our point from before, they really need help at center.
Here's the thing. If he has any shot of making the roster number 1, you got to root that Austria gets bounced quick from the World Juniors tournament. I mean, because it's going to take him a while to get, if he's going to be at the World Juniors, is that in Canada this year?
Canada, yeah.
Canada?
Edmonton bubble.
Okay.
We're going back to a bubble in Edmonton. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, no kidding. So what if you want him to make, if you're a Wild fan and you're looking for him to make this roster, the first thing you have to root for is Austria gets bounced in the 3 games and then they're done, and he can then quarantine here. He has to test negative, I believe, for 7 days. And he's going to, I believe, if everything worked out well, he can still get here early into training camp, but I don't think he's going to be ready here to start training camp. So he already faces an uphill battle.
But if he plays great, in the World Juniors, you might have a decision. That's the point here, is that they don't, like, if they were set, we got our top 2 guys, I'd be like, okay, probably not. But I am curious. Like, you tell me who is your right now, who is your opening night? We're about to face it off center.
Top line center.
Yeah. I mean, I know who they list on the depth chart, but
it's unfortunately Johansson, and
yeah,
he's not a center.
He's not a center.
I would honestly, Judd, I'd honestly go with Bonino. I would honestly go with Nick Bonino.
I'd love to debate you and say I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I know.
Bukestad's going to get a shot. Johansson's going to get a shot at the top line position. Eriksson Ek is going to get a shot, I think, probably as the second or third line guy. And I do think that he is probably, with the way he plays the game, an ideal third line center. Don't you?
Of course.
But the Rossi thing is only a talker to me. And I am not, in this case, I am not in favor of trying to force this. Like, I would prefer to see him develop. But I think if he plays in the World Juniors and goes back, I don't think the Canadian junior leagues have a plan to start yet. And so he would go back to Zurich. So, I mean, there's going to be a temptation, I think, to try and keep him here probably. And if they did have depth, I'd say no chance. I think there's a chance. I don't think it's probably 50%,
right?
But I think it's probably 25%.
I think it's probably 20%, and that's the conundrum you're in. Do you want him to shine the World Juniors tournament because that's good for his individual rank and how we see him, or do you want the team to get bounced quickly so you can really get him into Minnesota's training camp and get familiar with the situation and go from there? That's why this is a conundrum for him. I think from everything everyone has said, this is the biggest steal of the first round of the draft. Like all the draft experts think Marco Rossi falling to the Wild at 9, wherever the hell it was the biggest surprise of the draft. So you want to see if this guy's legit. He's 19. He's a center, by the way, a center. This is the guy you want.
That's the only reason why I'm broaching this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no way.
I know. So it's an interesting conundrum for them to be in. I think what will happen is he'll get here. He might make the roster and be on the taxi squad or be like an extra forward or something. And then after, the 7 days, they'll probably loan him back to Austria. They don't burn the first year of his contract. They did the same thing with Matt Dumba when he was a rookie. I think that's probably the path that happens. But if he steps foot and he shows in training camp, oh my God, no, this guy is legitimate. Let's do it. Burn the first year of his contract.
You know what the problem is? The problem is this too, or the issue is this from a player standpoint, Declan. I could see Fiala, who I don't think holds his tongue internally. I could see him going to Guerin and Dino and saying, guys, I'm playing with Johansson. He's a winger. Like if this kid can come here and pass the puck and make plays, I think Fiala might make a really strong case because to a certain degree, Fiala is going to go as his pivot goes, right? Mm-hmm. Like his line is if you have Johansson playing center like a wing, that's going to be a problem there. So it could get dicey. I'm not in favor of trying to rush the kid, but I do see a case where they might say, okay, let's try this. Three wild players, Declan Goff, have gone immediately from the draft to the roster. Gabrick, Pierre-Marc Bouchard, and can you give me the last wild player to go directly from the being drafted to the Wild roster?
Was it Eck?
No.
Was it?
It's 100 years ago.
Okay.
It's a long time ago.
Say so.
It might not seem obvious because this guy drove Jacques up the wall, but he actually had a lot of talent.
Was it Burnsy?
It was. 2003. It was Brent Burns. It was Brent Burns. That's the last one. Three wild players. So, yeah, if Rossi goes directly to the Wild roster, he will become only the fourth one to do it. All right, question 4. Do you believe Bill Guerin when he tells us on Zoom that he has yet to pick a captain? The question was asked, I think it was by Dave Schwartz of Care. He basically had said, you picked a captain, but have not announced it yet. And Bill Guerin came back with, we haven't picked a captain. It's being discussed. A lot of good candidates. Do you believe that this team has identified the captain to succeed Mikko Koivu?
I think they have their decision made. I think it's Jared Spurgeon. I think that's obviously the odds-on favorite. Obviously, I want it to be Marcus Foligno. I mean, I really do want it to be Foligno.
I think we agree on this.
He has all the characteristics and expectations of being a captain. I know he's entering the last year of his deal. I know that when you look at someone like Jared Spurgeon, who's been the quiet leader of the team, everyone loves him. He has the fancy new contract. It makes sense. I know there's Zach Parise, who's been a captain before and has arguably been even a more notable Minnesota Wild player than Mikko Koivu was, for God's sakes. Okay, like he's Minnesota hockey. He's been a captain before.
Veteran,
big goals. He's a veteran.
Yep.
Makes some sense. I don't think Suter's going to be the captain of this team. I honestly don't think he has a shot at being the captain of this team. I really don't.
I agree with you.
But if I was running the Wild, or if I had a vote, I should just say I can't just make it my own stranglehold decision. If I had a vote and I was in that room, I'm voting for Marcus Foligno. He has everything I want it to be. But if I was a betting man, it's probably gonna be Jared Spurgeon.
I agree completely. And I think that you're right. I think it's going to be Spurgeon. I would pick Foligno personally. And if I was to rank the three of them, I would go Foligno 1, Spurgeon 2, Parisi 3. No slight against Zach in this case, but I think that they desperately need to transition to the newer group.
Here's why
I just wouldn't do.
Here's why I would actually go Spurgeon third, because I think both Foligno and Parisi are, I don't want to say transitional captains, but Zach's up there in age, right? Marcus Foligno is also entering the last year of his deal. And if you really wanted to, and you wanted to give a young player the captaincy long term, and with the way the Wild is built right now, it's all about short term. Let's see what we got here, and then we'll commit, or then we'll reassess. I'd actually could make the case that Jared Spurgeon wouldn't be the worst option, but I'd rather it be Foligno or Parisi, because in the short term, it fixes that.
Who gets it if Parisi is traded or Foligno leaves as a free agent?
I would love it to be Fiala. I would honestly love. I give him the captaincy.
He ain't it. No way.
I give him the cap. I love his swagger. I love his demeanor. I would love it for Fiala.
Nah, he's got too much prima donna score to him. I
want it. I want.
He doesn't talk. And plus, here's the thing with Marcus that I love.
Mm-hmm.
He is a spokesman for the team and is brutally honest while still being a team guy. Fiala, I've covered a ton of guys, Dex, especially in the sport, like him. I mean, and he's a good player. So this is no slight against him as a player. He's really good. But those guys, they're too up and down as far as moods go. If they score, they're in a great mood. If they don't, they're not. They don't always have. This is going to sound weird, but the great scorers don't always have the best interest of the team in mind. They have the best interest of themselves in mind. So I would not go with him. Now, I don't know if there's a guy who is on the roster or up and coming who could take that mantle eventually. But my Parisi thing is, I think if the desire on both sides probably to end the relationship was not so high, but I think if the Wild could trade him, which they proved right at the deadline last season, they would trade him in a heartbeat. Right. But I'm with you. I think Foligno would be a great choice. All right, last question. What are your expectations, and do you think Kevin Fiala is now a star?
Yeah, I think he's a star 100%, Judd. You saw in that play-in tournament even, I know it was just 4 games, but there was no off switch. There was no period of time where it looked like the rust came off. This guy has every buddings to be a superstar. And when you have someone like Kaprizov, who's now coming in, and maybe one day Marco Rossi joins the club, now all of a sudden the Wild go from not having any stars to having potentially 3 of them, and 3 young guys that you're going to be able to control and watch for a very long time. I love his demeanor. When he was scoring goals towards the end of that pause, and we did go in the locker room, you did talk to him. I love that confidence. I love that swagger that he had. You could tell that he was feeling himself. I'm a big fan of him. Of all the things that Paul Fenton got wrong, man, he had a grand flipping slam with getting Kevin Fiala here from Mikael Granlund. So yes,
bring back Granlund. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay. But I think Fiala has every makings to be the superstar that we all want him to be. This kid is legit. He shoots the puck. He has the confidence and swagger that I love. This franchise has been starved for someone like this. Yes, I think he's a superstar.
Okay, so he got traded in the midst of the 2018-19 campaign from the Preds to the Wild. In that season, he had 13 goals, 26 assists, 83 games, and a -23. Last year with the Wild, he got incredibly hot late, and in 64 games, finished with a career high tying 23 goals, 31 assists, which was easily a career high, and was a -1. I think he is on the precipice of being a star. Here's what I need to see. An entire season where he'll have a slump or two. So like he's not going to completely crush for an entire year, but 56 games where he's engaged and playing like he showed he has the ability to play, because he showed it for 56 games. That's my next step. And if he does that, I'm going with star, because I think his skills are outstanding. Now, again, we got to default back to the one talking point: who's a center, because that's going to impact him. There's no question. But Fiala showed us in the stretch that I believe began in February of 2020 that he has the attributes and the skills to be a star, but he has never put it together for enough of a season to say that's definitely him. So if we see it for 56 games, if we see him apply himself and play at the level that he basically did for what the last Dex, was it about 15 to 20 games of last year?
I think it was more. I think it was more like 20 to 25 games, I feel
Okay.
like. But
Okay.
anyway.
If we see that for 56 games, there is no reason why Fiala and Kaprizov can't be one of the top tandems at wing in this league.
That's why I am curious, Judd. That's why I asked you, do you think they stay on the same line? Because I mean, look at a team like Colorado, right? They are top heavy. They're a one-line team, essentially, right? They have insane firepower on top. If things aren't going well offensively, I think you have to see a situation where you put them on the same line. I know the guy in the middle is the biggest external factor in answering that question, but I wouldn't be shocked at all. And how much fun would it be to see Colorado's top line, Minnesota's top line, no defense, baby, all offense going up and down the ice, pond hockey.
Who else is playing after that?
Yeah.
Do you not care?
I don't care.
Second line, whatever.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Whatever. But Benito's fine. I could see it. I'm just saying, I think to start off with, I probably don't have them on the same line. But look, power play and stuff, for sure. But yeah, Fiala, the most important thing to me is to see him. And I guess I'm jaded too, because how many players on this team have we seen? And I'm not trying to imply that there have been a lot of top line stars, because there have not been. But how many top players have we seen in the franchise, right? Who like take weeks off and we're like, what happened to you? And then they come back and they're, again, let's hit the stretch run, go. So if Fiala can put together 56 just solid, damn, I care for 56 games, and it's the perfect year, right? It's 56 games. It's not 82. It's the perfect year for a guy like him to basically come out and declare, I am an NHL All-Star. I can score. Kaprizov is good too, but I am the best scorer on this team.
I love it.
All right. Final thoughts? Man, we've been going a while here.
We have.
Well, no.
We haven't had much to talk about in the last 6 weeks.
This is great. This is great.
Well.
Absolutely fantastic. And I know that you will be staying up late throughout the course of the next few months. You don't even care.
I love West Coast hockey. I'm a night owl in general. Okay, like I don't, even if it's a work night, I am not in bed till probably midnight. It's how I operate. Sure. So I am for the West Coast times. And to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked at all and I know Guerin was kind of hinting at this in his Zoom press conference too, that there might be some times even on the West Coast they might bump it down a little bit to get everyone on the right page there.
Oh, like a 6 o'clock start.
Yeah. It would be an early, it might even be 8 our time and 6 their time. Yeah. Wouldn't be shocked at all.
All right. Judd's Hockey Show. I believe we will be back next week because there's finally hockey to talk about.
Yeah.
He's Declan. I'm Judd. Dex.
Pass, shoot, score.